For years, Paul Hogan seemed to have one of Hollywood's most unlikely love stories. The rugged Australian who became a worldwide star with Crocodile Dundee found love with his co-star Linda Kozlowski, and for a long time their relationship looked like it had come straight out of the movies. But behind the smiles and red carpet photos, life was far more complicated. Their marriage lasted more than 2 decades before quietly coming to an end, and years later they found themselves connected once again, not because of romance, but because of the family they built together. Long before Hollywood came calling, Hogan was already a celebrity in Australia. After years working as a laborer, he reinvented himself as a comedian and television personality. Still, he wanted something bigger. That ambition led him to create Crocodile Dundee, a film that would completely change his life. During production, he met American actress Linda Kozlowski, who had trained for serious stage acting and landed the role of journalist Sue Charlton. Their chemistry was obvious on screen, and before long it became clear that it wasn't limited to the cameras. But there was one major complication. Hogan was still married, and the relationship that had supported him through years of struggle was beginning to fall apart. Was success opening a new door, or quietly closing another? When Crocodile Dundee became an international sensation in 1986, Hogan's career exploded almost overnight. Audiences loved the film, and he suddenly became one of Australia's biggest exports. At the same time, intense media attention surrounded the breakdown of his first marriage. Newspapers followed every development, turning a deeply personal situation into front-page news. A few years later, after his divorce was finalized, Hogan and Kozlowski married. To many fans, it looked like the perfect Hollywood ending. Yet relationships that begin during times of enormous change often carry challenges that outsiders never see. The early years of their marriage appeared happy. Linda returned for the Crocodile Dundee sequels, and together they became one of the entertainment world's most recognizable couples. But while Hogan's famous character continued defining his career, Kozlowski faced a different reality. Despite her classical acting background, many of the roles offered to her were similar and limiting. Instead of finding challenging dramatic work, she often found herself being seen simply as Paul Hogan's wife. Could someone who loved acting eventually lose the passion for the industry itself? Over time, Linda chose to step away from Hollywood. She later explained that many of the projects she was offered simply didn't interest her. Instead, she focused on family life. In 1998, the couple welcomed their son, Chance, and becoming a mother brought her genuine happiness. For a while, that seemed enough. But as the years passed, both husband and wife slowly realized they wanted different things from life. Hogan was content with a quieter routine, while Linda longed to rediscover more of her own identity. Neither person was necessarily wrong. They were simply changing in different directions. And sometimes that's the hardest kind of distance to notice. By 2013, the marriage had reached its end. Linda filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences, a phrase that reveals very little about what actually happens between two people over many years. There were no shocking accusations, no dramatic public battles, and no major scandals tied directly to the split. Instead, friends and interviews over the years suggested something much quieter. They had gradually grown apart. The divorce was finalized the following year, with both moving forward on separate paths while sharing responsibility for their son. It wasn't the explosive ending many tabloids expected. In some ways, it was far more ordinary, and perhaps more relatable because of that. After the divorce, Linda built a very different life. She eventually married Moroccan tour operator Moulay Hafid Baba and became involved in a travel business connected to Morocco. She also made successful investments in real estate, proving she was building an independent future beyond acting and beyond her famous former husband. Hogan remained based largely in Los Angeles, staying close to Chance and continuing to manage the legacy of Crocodile Dundee. But even as both found new directions, neither completely disappeared from the other's life. Their shared role as parents remained. Hogan also faced difficulties away from the spotlight. Years of tax investigations in Australia created enormous legal and financial pressure before the matter was eventually resolved. Later came serious health challenges. He revealed that a rare condition called retroperitoneal fibrosis led to powerful steroid treatments that dramatically weakened his muscles. He eventually needed a pacemaker and spoke openly about losing the strength that had once defined him. The man audiences remembered wrestling crocodiles on screen now joked about needing help opening jars. Behind the humor was the reality of growing older, something no movie hero can avoid. Then came perhaps the greatest challenge of all. Reports over recent years described struggles involving Chance's mental health and personal difficulties. As parents often do during family crises, Hogan and Kozlowski found themselves communicating again despite having divorced years earlier. Their focus wasn't on revisiting the past. It was on supporting their son through an incredibly difficult period. Whatever differences had separated them as husband and wife mattered far less than their shared concern as mother and father. Isn't it remarkable how life's biggest priorities can completely change with time? Their public reunion at events celebrating Crocodile Dundee sparked speculation that romance might somehow return. Fans loved seeing them together again, smiling beside the film that had first brought them together decades earlier. But those close to the situation suggested the reunion was about friendship, shared history, and family, not rekindling an old relationship. Both had moved forward with their lives. What remained was respect for the years they shared and the bond they would always have through their son. Looking back, it's easy to describe their marriage as either a fairy tale or a failure. The truth is probably somewhere in between. They shared more than 20 years together, raised a son, experienced extraordinary success, and weathered enormous public attention. In the end, they discovered that love alone cannot always keep two people on the same path forever. Yet even after divorce, they showed that compassion, mutual respect, and shared responsibility can survive when romance does not. Perhaps that's the real story of Paul Hogan and Linda Kozlowski. Not a tale of unfinished romance, but one of two people whose lives became permanently connected by family, long after their marriage ended. Sometimes the strongest bond isn't the one that keeps people together forever. Sometimes it's the one that allows them to stand together again when someone they both love needs them most.